I live, every girl's an activist, and then I met a girl from like a small town. She was like, I do construction and I don't watch the news, which is like pretty like, yeah, but then I thought about it, and girl construction worker and girl activist is kind of the same job. You mostly just stand there and hold a sign, you know what I mean? Where I live, every girl.
This is Ryan Long, one of my favorite based anti-woke comedians.
I was moving recently and we were looking at moving companies, but because of the algorithm, they kept showing us this one company that was like an all-girl moving company, like a shitty moving company, right? And honestly, I'm not even saying that to be controversial, but like, has any dude here ever been moving with his chick and halfway through is like, babe, you gotta start a company. You are crushing it. You gotta take this pro, baby. All right, how about this? All-girl moving company called the Ex-Wives, and they just take half your stuff. How about... Come on, that's a pretty good...
That's pretty
idea.
good.
You can have it. It's your idea.
My favorite was the attack ads. Do you guys remember when they were just like, Kamala Harris wants to give sex changes to criminals, right? And I watched that, and I'm like, holy shit, this woman hates criminals. Because that would stop crime, right? Like, dicks are for good boys.
I actually think the hardest immigrant to be would be like Indian or Asian or something, because a lot of time their dads will be like, son, you can only date an Indian girl. It's like, well then dad, why'd you move me away from where they all are? It's kind of a crazy thing to tell a teenage boy, right? 90% of the is off the market. Get out there. I dated a girl like that when I lived in Toronto, Canada. Her dad wanted her to date an Indian doctor, and this guy was not pumped when she started dating a white comedian. And he didn't want to listen when I tried to explain to him that laughter is medicine. So, if you think about it, I'm a bit of a practitioner myself. And he was like, no, get out of here and take all these goats. We don't even do that. Yeah, I know. So this racist said to me. In the last 10 years, there's actually been 20% increase in women in government, which is probably good, but there's also a 20% increase in the national debt, most likely unrelated, but a little bit of emotional spending on Ukraine.
Are you guys pissed off about the election or what? However mad you were, I was way more mad because I had a lot of women president jokes written, and I guess that's just done now. But anytime there's a spending bill, I was going to say women be shopping. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But well, I had a lot of plans. It's over now, I guess. But one thing is funny, though. Probably right now in New York, you can get women to do almost anything by just telling them Republicans don't want them to do it.
Yeah.
You're like, dude, here J.D. Vance made a bill that women can't take out the garbage. You're like, what the fuck? Oh, no! Ted Cruz is saying women aren't allowed to be ready on time now. So fucking, you call that movie theater, tell them we're seeing the previews this time. You really want to spit in Brett Kavanaugh's face? They're saying women can't organize threesomes for their boyfriend. What the fuck? Oh, no. JJ Lieberman, everybody.
2 Jews and...
I know, I apologize for 2 Jews. I do have a strict 1 Jew per show policy, but what does he do?
I'm a lawyer.
You Jewish, by the way?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you know about comedy, but pretty Jew heavy. Not that surprising. Like, it's like someone walking into your law firm and being like, what, a little Jewy in here? Like, yeah. Yeah, that'll happen. Going to an NBA game and being like, a lot of, don't make me say it, but... The Muslim guy in the back's fucking eyeing you, by the way. I wasn't gonna bring it up, but... What kind of lawyer are you doing?
Intellectual property.
Chinese guy in the back's just like, what's that? I feel like vegans are the most hated activist group. Vegans get so much shit. People will be like, you, you're like the pedophile. They're like, behind him, there's a vegan. Not well liked. And some of their stuff isn't even that crazy. They're like, we shouldn't boil lobsters alive, and we're like, we're boiling them. You're like, why? It tastes 1% better. I have a friend who's a chef, and he goes, well, the lobster can't really feel it. You look at the pan, the lobster's like, ah! I don't know if you guys remember, but Tom Brady, when he won the Super Bowl, his wife Giselle at the time said one of the reasons he won is because she has these protection crystals that keep him safe. To the point where he was doing interviews being like, when I won the Super Bowl, oh, I'm so sorry, babe, when we won the Super Bowl. And I feel like girls say they believe in protection crystals, but if a guy was like, listen, I don't have a condom, but the good news is I have this protection crystal. I won't be able to walk you home, but I put a protection crystal in your purse. And you are gonna want that, because some of the neighborhood guys also do crystal. So, Tom Brady's wife, she lost all her money in crypto too, and it was like, ladies, you don't get to be into girl crystals and guy crystals, you know what I mean? That's our crystal. Every guy puts 30% of his money in crypto, loses it, and that's how we close the wage gap. You're welcome. Action stars back in the day used to be like psychopaths that believed they were the guy, like Seagal and Van Damme. Now they're like media trained. Jason Momoa will be like, everyone needs to recycle like a little bit. In 1990, Steven Seagal made a movie called Hard to Kill, if you guys remember this. There's one scene where he's in a coma, right? And the nurse comes in, looks at his and she goes, please don't die. She didn't want him to die because it's too big. That is an action star. Writing the script, nurse comes in, looks at the stick, pretty impressed. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson being like, donate to my charity. That used to be Mel Gibson drunk in his car yelling about Jews. A psycho. Let me ask you a question. If you have to call one of your buddies to help you in a fight, do you call your friend with all the right opinions or your buddy who was banned from Facebook twice? I think actually religion could solve some of the world's problems, but you guys aren't gonna like it. But people talk about global warming. This is how religion would solve that. There's 1 billion Muslims right now, and they pray 5 times a day. So on the last pray, they should all agree just to blow on the earth to cool it down a bit, like 5 times a day. I knew you weren't gonna like it. Listen, it's fine. You racists are thinking the spicy curry breath is gonna make the earth hotter. That's what racists are thinking. Fine. Option 2, the Jews that control the weather just turn it down a bit. So that's the second option. And whoever solves it first gets to keep Israel. Hey.
Oh, there you go.
I'm not going to apologize for solving both of Greta Thunberg's problems in one joke. Response to Jamel.
Look at those hand tattoos. You don't get that from an office job. This guy spent some time on a rig. Come on. What do they say?
Winnipeg.
You have Winnipeg on your knuckles? That's so funny. So your one hand just says peg? No, it doesn't. It doesn't say I peg. You didn't think of that? Your tattoo artist wasn't like, okay, you might wanna. So is your girl just railing you? You just see a hand grabbing the pillow for dear life that says I peg.
Imagine in 10 years, China takes over and you have to speak Chinese the way other people have to speak English. You know what I mean? You were in the bunker, and then you come out after 10 years after the war, and you see me at the cash register like, oh, it's wrong, damn, wrong, damn. And as a white dude, you're like, what the fuck? So you're telling me that white guys can just do the Chinese accent again?
Internet have been pointing out that Kamala Harris talks a little bit more black when she's talking to black people. And as someone who also talks blacker around black people, what'd it do? Y'all been good though? I take offense to that. It's a condition that I've had my whole life. I'll be talking to a white guy in just my normal voice. It's a windy one out there, pal. And a black guy shows up and windy as shit out here. Yes, some people call it code switching, which is a term I do not like, sir. Even if I do happen to switch from talking about computer code to a white guy, JavaScript or Python, to talking about street code to a black guy. I'm not one to snitch personally, but they not like us.
Not like us.
Tricked. Me too. Yeah. I just think he has better flow. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Did you hear Dave's coming to town? Chappelle. Did you hear Dave's coming to town? Matthews? I've obviously tried to just speak the way that I normally do. What'd you shoot, boys? It's just not something that's possible for me. Do a handshake? Is that cool?
Yeah. Started in high school. G Unit was a popular group at the time. I remember some of my black classmates walking by. I started talking black to them, and I loved the way that that made me feel. Kicks are fire.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I'm gonna take my wife's last name after our marriage this November. I knew that this is something that I wanted to do for women. And actually, hey, do you mind not putting my name on the screen? I don't really think it's that relevant to the story. You know, I think more men should be making this practice I actually go by Rich, for the record, if you are gonna. Why should women have to change their name? And if me going by Rich Anderson is gonna help normalize this, I've never gone by Dick, for the record. That is not, just put Rich Anderson on the screen. I'm Rich Anderson as of November. Why don't we just get a jump start on it? People are gonna say all sorts of things to you, like, oh, you're letting your family name die. Well, I actually don't talk to my family. My father had the same name as me and then passed it down to me, believe it or not, and we haven't had a good... Is this funny to you? Is this like a women's rights as a joke to you?
Olympic commentator Bob Ballard was fired for making a sexist comment insinuating that women take longer than men to get ready. And I just want to say, at the Boys Cast, we denounced that comment, and we have gender studies professor Melanie Fisher in studio to give her our producer is waving at me that she just needs a few more seconds here to
do whatever she wants to do. And I'll just take a second to say the idea that women take longer to get ready than men. Is she ready? Oh, false alarm.
Possibly a quick reminder that we are in fact live, and this is a short segment. Couldn't hurt. Oh, I've just been slipped a note from our producer that she is making one more tiny but definitely extremely necessary wardrobe adjustment.
If it wasn't necessary, she wouldn't be doing it.
Apparently, she does need to grab a quick snack after that. She's feeling dizzy, so we are just going to kill a bit of time here. Here's actually a picture of Bob. This is what a sexist looks like, folks.
Maybe we could do a quick ad read.
Great idea. This show is brought to you by Omega Swiss Luxury Men's Watches, because being on time is, well, maybe
But
not.
sometimes it's not important.
We have a question from John here who writes, my wife always asks if she looks fatter. Do you have any advice on how to answer this?
Well, that's a tough
Now,
one.
John, your wife is counting on you for an unbiased answer to that question, so it's important to remove the guesswork by saying something along the lines of there's only one way to find out, and then pulling out one of these mass calculation devices and comparing that data to your wife's weight at a more
Risky.
desirable
She
date.
pops on the scale, and now we can look at the data, accounting for a water weight fluctuation if she's on her period, and then put that data into a graphical presentation, such as I have here for my wife, including her daily caloric intake and literature on the dangers associated with obesity.
Now, I should say scales are not always necessary, though. I remember a few months ago when I was doing my analysis, I asked the wife to send me her macros so I can add them to my PowerPoint presentation, at which point she told me she hasn't been tracking those macros.
Well, there's your problem.
So naturally, I just asked her the follow-up question of why she's chosen to waste both our time with questions we already know the answer. We have a question from John here who writes, my City of Victoria has raised a period flag in front of a city building to reduce the stigma around periods. But some people have taken issue with the flag itself, which features an image of a blood-soaked goblin holding a crucifix with the insignia, stay the f*** back, it's that time of the month.
When asked about the unconventional flag, Victoria Mayor Marianne Alto said, to be honest, I was in a bit of a mood when we designed it, and now that I'm thinking a bit more clearly, I realize I may have gone overboard with the impaled head of my husband on a stake.
City Hall staff member Dave Johnson said, I'm just glad the mayor finally agreed on a design, because at one point she locked us in her office for 19 hours, unable to decide whether the flag should be draped with goat's intestines or not. When I explained we needed to get started, she laughed for 18 straight minutes and then bit the head off a ferret.
Victoria City Hall tweeted that the building will also light up red.
The popular electric scooter company Lime has announced it will be implementing a no-go zone on the Rainbow Pride crosswalk in Washington State, with the CEO of Lime saying they don't want people to see Lime scooters as gayer than they already are.
The head of marketing at Lime said, listen, off the record, people already think a grown man riding around on an electric scooter is a little fruity. We don't need them being associated with actual gay stuff on top of that. If you want to frolic on a pride rainbow, be my guest, but don't bring the Lime brand into your antics. This is off the record, obviously.
He continued, when people think of Lime scooters, we want them to think of a dude who gets bitches, and there's nothing gay about showing up to a lady's house on the Lime, parking it on the road, and then explaining to her that she'll have to download the app to grab hers so you can cruise side by side down to the board game cafe. Off the record, of course.
He finished by saying, I want people to know when life gives you limes, it's pussy time. Actually, that's pretty good. Does one of you have a pen? I want to write that down.
The popular electric scooter Reason New York set up a portal to Dublin, but women couldn't stop flashing their guns in front of the camera. So you sort of case in the joint to whip them out, just so you know it's not going to happen. I'm here to make sure that doesn't happen again. Security guards they hired are just texting away while potential flashers are on the loose.
I believe we have a potential flasher 4 o'clock.
They hired a security guard to make sure women didn't flash the portal.
Zero tolerance policy on flashing the cameras. We're just making sure. So if you're where your hands were, it just felt like you're about to.
Can't do that here on the guys.
Exactly. If they want to flash somewhere else, they're allowed to do that. Yeah. I'm not going to flash. Yeah, exactly. We're both doing the same thing, right?
We're not doing the same thing.
You're not going to make sure that the girls don't flash?
Yeah.
So we are doing the same thing.
No.
Got a security shirt.
Well, I feel like you guys are talking to me, but those guys are about to flash the camera.
We actually work for the company.
Well, we can work together.
Appreciate it if you could actually just disperse.
This dude is asking a single person to disperse.
In response to Jamel Hill's claim that the WNBA's Caitlin Clark is only popular because she's straight and white, Americans everywhere are vowing to boycott the WNBA by not watching a single game until that is sorted out. With resident Brad Johnson stating, until I can be assured that there isn't the slightest hint of racism associated with the league, its viewers, the sponsors, uniform manufacturers, and extended family of all WNBA employees, it definitely won't be on my TV.
At this point, a bystander pointed out that it's actually less common for white people to have extreme popularity in basketball, to which Brad interrupted by saying, nope, I've made up my mind. This Jamel Broad is speaking truth to power, and I would appreciate if they stopped the insane amount of inorganic press coverage on every sports website during NBA broadcasts and fantasy sports sites too. That is, of course, until Jamel says the league is completely racism-free.
California resident Tyrone White stated, I've honestly been meaning to catch a game at some point in the last couple decades, but I knew something in my body was telling me don't bother. Now I know what that was. And I'm sure by now you've seen women on TikTok going viral stating they feel safer with a bear than a man.
Loved it.
And these women are sending a powerful and meticulously crafted political message that says to the world, we are bad at risk analysis, stop making us do it.
For years, the world has told women, we need more of you to trade crypto, gamble, enroll in actuarial sciences.
Enter STEM fields.
And other risk analysis adjacent fields. And these women revolted by saying, enough is enough. I can't even tell if a human man is more dangerous than a bear. Please stop trying to force me to run a hedge fund.
I'm ashamed to say that when I first saw the man or bear trend, I took it at face value and I said, I know that driving a car is dangerous, for example, but I would obviously be safer on the road than in a cage with a mountain lion, even if there are fewer deaths by lions due to frequency of encounters. But I just wasn't seeing the purposefulness in which this inaccurate risk assessment was being administered. Professor Bethany Latique has claimed that marriage promotes white supremacy, to which local resident Braden Smith responded, finally someone said it. I've been trying to explain how problematic marriage is to my girlfriend for 17 years, and that by tying that knot, we might as well be tying the knot on our Grand Wizard outfits.
Smith continued, as much as I would love to take a vow to only smash one woman for eternity, it's just way too racist. You heard what the professor said. I could never do that to black people.
Bar owner Jamal Green responded by saying, I knew something about holding an expensive ceremony with this woman I've only been with for 12 years was not sitting right with me. But now I realize it's because of racism, before asking the news team how much enrolling his wife in that lecture might run him.
36-year-old firefighter Jose Lopez is quoted as saying, I see no difference between wedding vows and screaming the N-word, and states that he also felt there might be something white supremacist about dinner with the in-laws and asked if that professor abroad could take a look into that as well.
Welcome back to the Trauma Cast, a podcast where women talk about their trauma. Now, Brandy, you actually mentioned that you had some trauma on the way here.
Yeah, I was coming in on the elevator and I was bumped.
That does sound traumatic.
You know, to be honest, I've just dealt with so much trauma in my life that sometimes I don't realize when an event is traumatic.
Now, I can sense that you're repressing the trauma associated with the bumping, but at some point you're going to have to explore that trauma in depth if you want to feel whole again. As a child of divorce, I can attest to that.
Oh my God, that must have been so
Very much so.
Yeah, you know, if that trauma's too fresh, I don't want it.
My parents just walked in the room and said, we've been waiting for you to finish college to break the news, but here it is.
That's traumatic.
Yeah.
As someone who recently went through a traumatic breakup 9 years ago, I can say...
Oh my God, I didn't realize that you were only 9 years into dealing with the trauma of a breakup. Can you talk about it, or is the trauma too fresh?
When you spend every day with someone for weeks, and then out of nowhere, they just decide to stay with their husband, it can have traumatic consequences.
Poor wounded soul. The fact that you got out of bed this morning to come to this studio is nothing less than heroic. Obesity has officially overtaken hunger as the biggest threat to world health, according to the WHO. Another fact that is perfectly fine to say now, but when I yelled it into the faces of women in line at Arby's with my megaphone, I received a lifetime ban from their establishment. Arby's corporate has no problem contributing to the biggest threat to world health, but sent me an official restraining order just for wearing a t-shirt that said whale watcher and staring at customers through binoculars from less than a foot away, screaming, "This one's about to feed." Looks like Arby's doesn't want those empty calories to come with a side of truth bombs. A recent study of over 150 males has concluded that people with lower IQ are likely to have a larger penis size, meaning that low IQ that word is a little big for me, probably more your department.
The findings were found to be statistically you know, I've never been much of a reading man.
Now, how many thousand is 150,000? Is that like a billion or something? They didn't really do numbers in the special classes, so maybe we do your teleprompter.
When you say teleprompter, is that what that box thing is? Is that like a mailbox for computers?
Can we take a quick break? I got like a guy on my screen and I can't get him out. Do you know how to get rid of these?
Hey Ryan, word of advice, these Stone Cold Steve Austin figurines, they don't taste as good as you think they would.
I mean, personally, I'm more of a model train guy. Oh, God damn it, I put my shoes in the wrong hands again.
Starting to see more retailers pull back on self-checkout and rethink some of their decisions to expand it.
Yeah, I've been stealing from this Target for 5 or 6 years, so obviously I was a little perturbed when they decided to get rid of the stealing section. I don't mind paying for a few items here and there.
The stealing section.
But obviously I don't want to put the entire haul on my dime. Also, one of the reasons they said they're getting rid of the stealing section is because people are stealing. So to me, that seems like getting rid of titties because people are drinking the milk.
So the technology just has not gone as planned.
All right, fellas, so today we're checking out the New Year's CNN First Kiss. No. Yeah. No, that's not working for me. No, thank you. Maybe I'm not the target demo. There could be some people at home watching this, enjoying it, but that ain't me. Obviously, if it was up to me, I would have put a chick in there with probably some big honkers. I then would have filmed the girl at an angle where you could see some of that rack and the least amount of dude as possible, let alone 2 dudes. Pretty simple fix. I would have replaced one of those dudes with a woman, but it's CNN's show. If they don't want to do that, then I guess this is where me and CNN part ways. And I'm sure as hell not going to watch it again. So in fact, I'm probably going to take this file, put it in the trash bin right now. I don't even want that on my phone. Thanks, but no thanks. But hey, I'm just straight like that. Biopic about me, so I'm just gonna watch the trailer.
He is considered a sacred figure by both Republicans and Democrats.
He led the nation through its greatest crisis.
I did.
He's on our currency. Yep. We build monuments to him.
Guilty.
He's the greatest president the United States has ever had.
Today, the big question that people are asking is, was Abraham Lincoln gay?
In the 19th century, for many men, their closest relationships were other men, and same for women.
Men would live with another man when they're single, and often did, and shared beds.
Lincoln probably slept in the same bed with men more than he did with women.
No, he didn't.
Put together
I
all of
honest to God, never did that.
Really startling.
It's actually
If you
not
want a
that
smoking
startling.
gun, here it is.
But
I'm
then
game
you
for
see all
freeing
these
slaves.
shifts to the end of the 19th century.
Who the f*** is this guy?
If you can accept a queer Lincoln, you can accept
I
queer
didn't,
people
though.
overall.
Lover of men? Nope, there's some technical glitch.
Would you be willing to eat a log of your own shit if that helped get Trump out?
If I had to, I would. That's how much I hate the man. He's a narcissist.
How much shit would you be willing to eat to get rid of him? Like actual logs?
I'm not going to exaggerate, but I'll do within reason what I have to do.
So it'd have to be a reasonable amount of shit. Like if it was a full dump truck that's starting to get out of control.
No, I'm definitely not going to eat a whole dump truck, but I will do what I have to.
What if it was just like a smaller car, like an Aztec or something like that, and the trunk was just full of the shit?
I hate him, but I'm not going to do anything that's going to go against me either.
You'd be willing to eat maybe like a log or two, but you're not going to eat like a full dump truck worth to get rid of Trump for your country.
Eat a little bit, but that's about it. Just to show that I do not like the man.
What's the most you'd eat, like a bowl?
This dude is literally willing to eat to show he doesn't like Trump. This is the delusion. This is the Trump derangement syndrome at its finest.
Maybe a bowl, yeah. That's being realistic.
In a controversial decision, Mark Zuckerberg has announced he will be reducing censorship on Facebook to allow one N-word per year per white person, which some critics have noted is a huge increase from the previous allowance of none.
Zuckerberg reiterated that he's not encouraging anyone to use the N-word, he's just saying it's there if you need it. And then amended that statement saying, well, not if you need it, that sounded kind of sus, but you know what I mean. Now that censorship is out, it's time to shake things up at the book, and honestly, our old censorship policy was kind of mid.
He continued, also, deadass, I can't win, because some people are saying one N-word isn't enough, so I'm getting flack from both ends. But I actually think one is the perfect amount because the scarcity makes it hit different when you do drop it, you know? At least for me it does.
Governor Gavin Newsom went on record to criticize the policy, saying, I don't know what makes Zuckerberg think he can hand out N-word passes, let alone 1 billion of them. But when asked whether or not he plans to use his allowance, Newsom responded by saying, off the record, I already sold mine to Chuck Schumer. To which Mark Zuckerberg responded, bet.
Those comedians is like, you can't say anything anymore. Like, you kinda can. Like, you can do it. I mean, I'll believe it on YouTube, but here, the trick is don't have a job. That is the first trick, and a microphone does help. That's another thing. Because I had a guy come up to me after a show, and he was like, dude, it's messed up. You can't say anything. I got fired from my job for making fat jokes just like you were doing. And I go, what do you do for a living? And he goes, I'm a waiter. I go, little different, though, no? I don't know if waiters should be making fat jokes. Going up to a table, eating for 4 tonight, are we, ladies? What? I can't make a joke?
Anyway, what did you think about Ryan Long? I've linked both of his channels in the description down below if you want to go check them out. Be sure to subscribe to Conservative Vibes. I'm CV, and I'll see you in the next video.